The Super Nintendo is a fantastic console, isn't it? It holds so many classics, as you probably already know. Zelda: A Link to the Past, Super Mario World, Super Castlevania. I mean, the list is endless. We could be here all day talking about the best SNES games. One thing I love about this console the most though is even still to this day I'm finding hidden gems for it, like the one I'll be covering today in this video, that being the Firemen. I hope you enjoy. This was originally going to be a completely different video if I'm honest. After doing a bit of research for the Firemen, I noticed this was actually the second game in the disaster genre that Human Entertainment, the developer and publisher for the Firemen, made. The first disaster-based game Human Entertainment released was called Septentrion, or better known as SOS outside of Japan. SOS is set in 1921 with the story being that you're on a cruise ship that is being battered by waves which eventually makes the boat sink. From here you pick from 4 characters to go on your journey to escape the boat alive while also saving others. The concept is great and really got me buzzing to play it until I was actually in control of my character. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. You're supposed to escort passengers to safety, but some just seem not interested in coming with you at all. There was times when the people who were following me just disappeared. There is a map you can view, but I found it useless as it doesn't detail where you actually are on the boat. I found the controls to be really clunky too. It sort of gave me Prince of Persia for the Super Nintendo vibes. Really innovative for sure at the time, but it really has aged terribly in my opinion. On top of all that, you have 1 hour in real time to complete the game, which isn't displayed unless you get hit by something or fall from high up, which knocks you out and takes away 5 minutes of your time. I felt a bit of nausea too while playing because as the time goes down, the state of the boat worsens with it rocking from side to side, and also towards the end goes completely upside down, which made navigating the boat even more difficult. The majority of the passageways and rooms you can explore just look the exact same to me. If you haven't gathered already, I wasn't the biggest fan of this and didn't complete it. I got a game over because the boat became filled with water and I effectively drowned. However, I must say the music was fantastic in it. The opening scene with the text explaining the story with the music on top really got me pumped for it. I'm sure it's a cult classic and really enjoyable if you manage to get the hang of it, and I'm also sure I'll try it again in the future, but for this time, it just wasn't for me. So for all those reasons, it made it an easy choice to skip it completely and just jump straight into the Firemen instead. So that brings us to the Firemen. It was released in September of 1994 in Japan and then released in May of 1995 in Europe. One of those rare occasions where we get an exceptionally great game that America did not see. Just like SOS, the Firemen is set around a disaster. The year is 2010 on a winter's night in New York. There is a Christmas party going on in the city's Metrotech Chemical Company building. Unbeknown to the people attending the party, a small fire has started in the kitchen. The flames soon begin to spread rapidly throughout the building with the help of the chemicals stored inside the vicinity. From here you get some insight to the character you play as, a member of the D Sector Fire Brigade named Pete and his colleague Danny, along with other members who will be on the scene and aid you on what to do next. So now you know what's going on, let's get into the game itself. So with a name like the Firemen, you have probably already guessed what you'll be doing in this, right? That's correct, putting out fires. I'm sure if I explained it like this to you, you would probably find the idea of it pretty boring, but they managed to pull it off brilliantly in this. Before I go any further, for the sake of this video and my immaturity, I'll be referring to the spraying of your character's fire hose as attacks and the different fire types as enemies. The game is an action shooter really, so it will be easier for me to describe these as if I was playing your normal action shooter game. You take control of your fireman by using the D-pad to maneuver around each level. I should point out that each level is broken up into floors. You have 3 means of attack. Pressing the Y button allows you to do an upward attack, B button is for a downward attack, and the A button is for using an extinguishing bomb if you have any available. Figuring out what kind of attack to use on each enemy really depends on what kind of fire type is in front of you. If it's big flames, you're best to go for an upward attack, but if it's just a little fire on the floor, go for a downward attack. You don't have to extinguish every fire you come across, but you do get a fire rating at the end of each level, so if you're going for a 100% run, you're best to put out every different fire type you come across. As the levels progress, you'll face more difficult types of enemies, some that come flying towards you leaving a fiery trail in its path, so you'll have to use both attack types to take care of the enemy while also clearing the path after. While navigating through each level, there are injured civilians you can choose to help. You don't have to, but it has its rewards if you do. Once you have saved someone, you get a little bit of a health boost which is indicated at the top of the screen. You'll always know there is a civilian to be saved by the detector you are equipped with. It will begin to beep when there is someone nearby to save. The beeping gets more and more intense as you get closer. The health boosts you receive become really helpful in the later levels where I found it to get a bit more harder. It's not only the enemies that get more difficult as you progress, but the actual surrounding environments you'll find yourself in too. You'll come across exploding pipes, holes appearing in the ground, even backdraft from explosions if you open a door to a room that already has a massive fire in it. You're basically on the move non-stop. It's never a good idea to remain still because for the majority of the time there will always be something that's going to hurt you. The game eases the player in nicely. There isn't any monotonous training stage that prepares you for what's ahead. In the early stages you'll come to certain points where you feel as if you won't be able to progress any further, but a little prompt will pop up indicating for you to either crawl under a space or duck if an explosion is about to go off, which I can appreciate. The game tells you once and it's up to you to remember how to deal with certain situations. You can get upgrades for your hose too. The maximum amount of extinguishing bombs you can carry is free, but if you collect another one on top of the 3 you already have, you are granted with a stronger attack. Even without the stronger attacks, you'll always feel fully equipped to progress further. It may just mean you need to get a few more shots on an enemy, but the difficulty curve always seemed fair to me throughout my playthrough. The controls are tight enough to always ensure you're capable of progressing for whatever is in front of you. You can either aim and attack manually while running, or you can hold down the right bumper which holds the position you're facing in so you can move and get a more accurate shot. I found myself using this control a lot more than manual. Attacking manually while moving often reminded me of what it's like taking a piss without holding my wood. Just piss spraying everywhere. Also, your colleague isn't feared to get stuck in himself too. A lot of the time when everything seems to get a bit on top, you'll lend a hand and somehow be able to extinguish fires with an axe. Never seen that before in real life, but fair play for not just standing there while I get the shit kicked out of me. As I mentioned earlier, the levels are split up into the floors you progress through in the building. There are 6 floors in total, making the game fairly short, but each level has its own unique feel while also incorporating new enemy types to overcome, so it never became a chore to get through. If anything, I was always excited to see what was in store next. At the end of each level there is a boss fight. Of course, as the game progresses, these bosses become harder and harder. No boss ever felt the same, usually incorporating some sort of new tactic you've learned in that level and bringing it into the boss fight so you know how to beat it. This could be something like leaving a fiery trail behind its path while flying towards you, leaving you less and less space for you to maneuver in unless you put the fire out. Or even having a fiery mist fly around while fighting a boss, and if you'd done the stage correctly, you'd know to duck when they are coming towards you. It's always good to be aware of your surroundings too while in boss fights. Throughout the levels you'll find there are many things you can interact with, like opening doors, smashing vases, but the main one is the ability to smash windows, which sometimes hold extinguishing bombs, which can seriously be a lifesaver, especially if you think you're about to die. These are honestly some of the best boss fights I've come across during my years of playing the Super Nintendo. There was only really one point in the game where I got stuck, and believe it or not, it was right at the end after the last boss, which by the way was incredibly hard. Literally, everything you have learnt throughout your playthrough, this boss throws at you, all at the same time. After a few game overs and having to start the game from scratch, I finally beat him. After you defeat this boss, you come to a dead end with windows in front of you that you have to smash while also evading fireballs and explosions. It was all incredibly intense. I was on my last life. My colleague was standing there kicking the shit out of the window with his axe, but it wasn't smashing. This was going on for ages. I'm constantly ducking and diving these fireballs, dodging explosions, and I eventually died, taking me back to the beginning of the game again. I had no idea what I was doing wrong. All that is said before this sequence starts is, it looks like extra thick glass. Are you ready? Let her rip. And then your colleague takes the lead by beating the glass. Which makes sense if it's extra thick glass and he's got an axe, right? Well, I went through the game again to only find out that you're supposed to smash the glass yourself with your hose. Can you believe it? I mean, I wouldn't say I wasted my time with multiple playthroughs because I genuinely enjoyed this game, but I wish it had said something like I should take the lead. I'd choose an axe over a fire hose any day of the week to break extra thick glass. Anyway, after breaking the glass, an explosion is set off. Yourself and your colleague go over the great job they have just accomplished. Great way to end the game. As great as the controls, visuals, gameplay all are, the sound effects and music also play a big part in this game. This honestly is some of the greatest sound design and music I've heard in a Super Nintendo game. You can hear the growling of the fire in each area you are in. It's amazing how they pulled this off because I genuinely felt as if I was being engulfed in the flames and the heat myself while playing. The sound of explosions going off, the beeping from the detector, even the noise of the extinguishing bombs you have, it all sounded great and really helped with the experience. Each level has its own unique song to accompany it. All sounded fantastic, but my favourite track was from level 2. All in, I thoroughly enjoyed my playthrough of this game. It really is a genre of game I didn't know I needed in my life. As stated, the difficulty throughout was very fair and any time I died it could always be put down to myself and not the game's fault. Well, maybe apart from that bit right at the end of the game. The music and sounds are excellent and complement the game brilliantly. The reviews this game received back when it was released seemed to be on par with what I have said myself, which was nice to find out. I also didn't get a chance to include the camaraderie I felt between the colleagues that help you progress. There was a few moments I got a laugh while reading the text that was being said to each other over the radio at certain points in the game. They done a great job making this group of people be believable, which I just found absolutely brilliant. That brings me to the end of the video. Have you played this game before yourself? If you have, I'd love to hear your opinions down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you hated it, please give it a dislike. It really helps me know what I'm doing good and what I'm doing crap. Also, if you'd like to subscribe, that would be appreciated. It helps grow my channel and reach a wider audience. Anyways, that's all for now and I'll hopefully catch you in the next one. See ya!